Cincinnati. Great game. 50 seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hauled in. Devontae.
Sure.
Before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. We're live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Smash that like button, smash that share button, and, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sorry, I'm a little slow this morning. The words are not going to come out very clearly this morning. Phil had a little too much to drink last night. Anyway, we're live, as always. Make sure you head over to the YouTube page or the Facebook page at DSM Media, the best places to get involved physically with the show. And I could put your comments, just like these examples, up on the screen. We can interact with you and your thoughts of the topics of the day. Today is Overreaction Monday, and it is a thing, Overreaction Monday. We like to do this every single Monday where we overreact, we freak out, we say things that we don't really deep down inside mean, but they're fun to overreact to a little bit. So that's what we do on Mondays. I am Phil Stifel, your host, at Beard of Knowledge. This is my man, Mark Moscatelli, at Mark with a C, Moscatelli on Twitter. Good morning, Mark, and how you doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Phil. Again, thank you for the invite. I'm doing quite well. Not as probably better than you, though, if you're suffering a hangover at your age on a Monday.
For hangovers. I'm drinking water this morning here to try to hydrate.
Oh, man.
We're brought to you on DSM Media by Manscaped on all shows, the leader in men's grooming products, the GOAT in below-the-waist maintenance. Make sure you check them out. Manscaped.com. Use promo code DSM at checkout. It gets you free shipping, 20% off, and lets them know Team DSM sent you. So make sure you check them out. Again, Overreaction Monday today. We're going to talk Sixers and the James Harden rumors and the Tyrese Maxey stuff. We're going to overreact to that. We're going to move into football a little bit as well. We're going to talk Jonathon Gannon, the Eagles. We're going to talk Super Bowl a little bit. I want to bring in halftime shows into the conversation. So we got lots to talk about. But Overreaction Monday begins with Sixers talk today. Sixers beat the Bulls last night. I watched most of the game yesterday. A really good win against a really good Bulls team, even without Zach LaVine or Lonzo Ball playing. The Chicago Bulls are still a really good team. So it's nice to see them go on the road into Chicago. Seems like we have Chicago's number. But Overreaction Monday can start with, based off of that game, the topic that Tyrese Maxey is untouchable. Whether it's a trade for James Harden, whether it's a trade for Bradley Beal, or any of the rumors floating around right now. I personally, Overreaction Monday statement, I don't believe any player ever is completely untouchable, and I hate that term, untouchable. So I don't know if Tyrese Maxey's untouchable or not, but to me, he's not, because in the right situation to win a title, everybody is on the table to be traded at all times. Mark?
He's untouchable. So
okay.
that's my overreaction. I get it. But honestly, if you trade for Bradley Beal or if you trade for James Harden and you start breaking up the core of the team and the bench of the team, does it really get you to the promised land, or does it create holes elsewhere that you're really back at square one? I think you know me, I am a Matisse Thybulle fan. And and Maxey is just he's the guy right now next to Embiid. He really is. Take those two pieces away to bring a disinterested James Harden or a Bradley Beal who's played on a terrible team for his career. Like, does that really get things done for the team to get them over the top? I don't think so. I don't think so. And you have core young players or younger players, I'd rather them add to that team when you have a player like a Ben Simmons who's sitting on the sidelines that does not want to play for this organization, but will play for another organization. Get rid of him first before you mess with the chemistry of the team. I would, if you could trade Simmons straight up for Beal or Simmons straight up for Harden, maybe throw a pick in, or I'm all for that. I think you get rid of the guy that's the least contributing right now that has the high upside still, and that's Simmons, before you mess with the core and chemistry of this team.
And that's a very fair statement right there. You bring up interesting things. The disinterested Harden, the Bradley Beal never playing on a winner kind of comments, and it's like, what kind of a player will they be when they come here? What do they bring to the table? They obviously bring something that we lack, which is that gunner, that scorer that could just go get their bucket and their shot at any time. We need that on the Sixers. Can Tyrese Maxey be that guy eventually? Absolutely. And it's do you want a chance to win a title this year or next year, or do you want a chance to maybe have Maxey be that guy in 3 to 4 years, and maybe we win that title in 3 to 4 years, but maybe we win, the window. If you bring in Harden now, you might win 1 title in the next 2 years, maybe 2 in the next 3 years. That's like your percentage. You keep Maxey, you might have a chance to win 2 or 3 titles in a 5 or 6. That window is bigger. You know what I mean? So what are you getting there? And I get that, but and I also get your point that disgruntled Simmons for disgruntled Harden should be enough, hypothetically speaking. The question really comes down to: do you think James Harden is a guy that can win us a title? And I'm going to go back to a statement I made last week on Overreaction Monday, and I've been talking about it nonstop. Can this Sixers team, as constructed right now, maybe if Daryl Morey makes a minor move to bring in a veteran backup point guard to help Tyrese Maxey or something along those lines, with the minor trades, is this team good enough to even make the Eastern Conference Finals as constructed? And if you look at the Eastern Conference standings right now, I think they are actually good enough to make a run. I'm bringing up the standings. They're 1.5 games out of the first 1 seat right now. They're in the 5 spot, but there's only 1.5 games between the 1 through the 5 spot. You got the Milwaukee Bucks ahead of them. The Cavaliers, who did just make a trade for Chris LeVert, which is going to go, if James Harden gets traded or Bradley Beal gets traded to anywhere, the Chris LeVert trade to the Cleveland Cavaliers is going to be totally, skipped over in conversation. It's a great trade for the Cleveland Cavaliers right there. The Raptors are just behind us. Brooklyn is just free falling. They're down into the play-in group in the 7th seat right now. I mean, the Bulls, we saw them last night. We beat them last night. Miami is a really good team. And as they get healthy and as Jimmy Butler gets healthy and Bam gets healthy they're a good team. But are they unbeatable? No. So if Joel Embiid continues to play at this superstar elite level, if Tyrese Maxey keeps hitting over 40% from deep, I think he's over 50% since he's come back, from his COVID, break that he had, if he continues to play the way he does, is a Maxey Embiid duo with Tobias Harris, who's actually in the last 5 weeks back to playing really good basketball again. Is that a good enough team to make the Eastern Conference Finals at least?
I think so. I think any team with Embiid has that chance. And he has gotten better and better and better every year. I mean, he leads the league in scoring right now after last night. Isn't that correct?
Actually, I think he went into the game because a couple guys had bad games. So he went into the game leading, and he actually extended it by about a quarter of a point.
He put up a 40 spot against the best team in the East.
While DeMar DeRozan, all-star DeMar DeRozan, put up 45 for the Bulls, and you needed every ounce of that 40-point performance from Joel Embiid last night.
And Thibault sat out. Let's just imagine if Thibault was playing.
Yeah. Then DeRozan doesn't put up 45 points, probably.
They maybe blow out the Bulls. So I think any team with Embiid and especially now, has that chance. And I think you said it too. Each team is only a game and a half away from each other, so it's really tight at the top. So if they got another player, does it get them over the top? Yes, but does that player have to be Harden or Beal or adversely affect the core of the team? I don't think so. I think if you could find a second tier guy that can make it work, I think the Sixers would be much better off.
I've got the box scores up here, and I know Matisse didn't play, but that doesn't really get to my point. I'm looking at it. Your bench right now, it's George Niang, Andre Drummond, Furkan Korkmaz, and Isaiah Joe. Yes, Shake Milton's been out, but honestly, let's be honest. Shake Milton's he's okay. He's nothing special.
Mhm.
So you literally don't have a backup point guard. You got Furkan when he comes in, when Maxey's out running backup point guard. You got Curry running backup point guard. You got Joel Embiid running backup point guard. So I think there's a bigger need. Overreaction Monday, there's a bigger need on this team for bench depth than James Harden coming to this team. That's my overreaction statement there. That I've settled on it. That is my overreaction Sixers statement. The bench needs more help than bringing in James Harden, and on the level of importance right there, because you can't go into the playoffs with Furkan Korkmaz, and I love Furkan. Furkan's a fun player. When Furkan plays with the confidence of Michael Jordan, but the shot of Furkan Korkmaz, he wants and thinks he's Michael Jordan. But he's not. He's Furkan Korkmaz. So he can't be your start. He can't be your backup point guard come playoff time.
He's had some stretches where he's been really good. He's had some stretches that, oh boy, sit back on the bench, my friend. He is what he is. He's Furkan. I think he's shown that that's probably his ceiling, or he's close to his ceiling.
His ceiling is a guy that should be playing 12 to 15 minutes off the bench. If he gets hot one game, you stretch it to 20 minutes to maximize that hot streak. But that's all he should be. He's a guy that, if you need somebody to be open for a three late in the game to tie it up or win it, you put him on the court. That's all Furkan is. But right now, unfortunately, he's your backup point guard at times. Isaiah Joe, you would think he'd get some more run. He's another guy that he gets his shots. He makes his shots. He's a total liability on defense, Isaiah Joe. But last night he only played 5 minutes, probably mostly in mop-up duty at the end of the game. But again, is Isaiah Joe a guy you want with regular minutes come crunch time at the end of the season or in the playoffs? No. So you really, really need, everybody made fun of that George Hill trade last year when we traded Tony Bradley or Tony Ferguson, whoever the backup center was. Whoever that was. But George Hill was a veteran presence, and you need that kind of guy coming off the bench. I don't know who's available. There's no names that I'm not even sure what the minor guys' names are that are out there available. But you need somebody. You need somebody to be able to run the point if Maxey has a bad game. You need a guy that can help Maxey continue to grow. You need somebody just to be in his ear, and you need Sam Cassell. Coming off the coaching bench to be the backup point guard, basically. You need somebody because the Sixers. You see when Maxey comes out of the game, you see
there's a drop off.
There's a massive drop off. There's a massive drop off when Joel Embiid comes out of the game, but not as much as I think the drop off on when Maxey's out of the game is a much bigger deal going forward for this team.
Well, and I can't say that I watch every game, every minute of every game, but is Rivers still taking all starters out and putting a whole new team in, a whole bench
Not
in?
as much. Actually, I think the biggest issue, and it's actually interesting you brought that up because he's changed it up a little bit. I mean, he doesn't run a whole backup because a whole bench lineup because he doesn't have that deep of a team right now. I mean, he's mostly running when everybody's healthy. When Matisse is healthy, he was out last night. He ran an 8-man lineup last night, so he didn't have an all bench lineup. Matisse being out, he would have ran a 9-man lineup. But most of those minutes, because Maxey and Curry and Harris are playing so many minutes, they don't really have to run an all bench lineup anymore. But the one thing about his rotation that really, really frustrates me right now is how he's using Joel Embiid. So he's using him right in the sense of if you just look at the box score, he played 32 minutes last night and Drummond played 16. So you got, there's none of this small ball lineup where you don't have a center on the court. He's got Joel Embiid out there or he's got Drummond out there. But it's the way he's using them. So he uses them right in the first quarter. He plays about the first 9 minutes of the first quarter, then sits the last 2 minutes of the first quarter, sits the first couple minutes of the second, and comes back in. He plays him literally the entire third quarter, maybe the last 30 seconds of the third quarter he sits the bench, and then he has to sit the first 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter, and that's when the teams are making the run. So Doc's got to work on that third quarter minute, time frame, so he's more ready to go for more of the crunch time coming down the game. That's my only issue right now with Doc Rivers, rotation or minute allotment, whatever you want to say.
And I would agree with you with that. I think Embiid's minutes are perfect, like at 32 to 35 a game.
Yeah. and you're keeping him fresh. And look, he played 32 minutes last night. He scored 40 points in 32 minutes,
which is amazing. Because come the playoff time, like that's going to go away. He's going to be needed for 40, and whatever you need to do to keep him fresh. But at the same time, like you said, set him up for success. Set the team up for success, and have him play that whole fourth quarter, especially if it's a tight game. If it's a blowout, it's a different.
I want him to be able to play 8-9 minutes in that fourth quarter if necessary, not 6 or 7. You know what I mean? I know we're nitpicking on it, but that's that. So I don't want to spend the whole show. I want to get to football talk and stuff today. Does James Harden or Bradley Beal come to Philly? Thursday is the trade deadline, whatever time, 3 or 4 o'clock. Will the deal get consummated, and will it get made? Because you see a lot of rumors. You got Woj making his comments, and you got Shams making his comments. 2 totally different, opinions or sources on them. Shams saying it's almost a done deal. Woj saying that the Nets haven't spoken to the Sixers, in
4 weeks. Yeah, I saw that this morning.
Which real quick, it's kind of weird because I saw an interesting comment by somebody. Woj gets his sources from the coaches, the GMs, the front office people. Shams gets his reports from the players, or his sources are the players. So do you believe the front office rumors, or do you believe the player rumors that James Harden wants out, where the front office says no? Steve Nash said after his game, after they lost their 8th in a row the other night, that no, we are not trading James Harden. What side, do you believe, or do you try to find some, sliver in the middle there?
I don't believe any of them, but I think every now and then you'll get a nugget. I think Woj is the best in the business for his. I mean, he's usually spot on. Yeah. But like going back to Nash in his press conference, what's he going to say? Well, yes, we're going to go ahead and trade him, and we're going to trade him to our divisional rival too. Like that's. I mean, they're not going to say anything like that. It's a stupid question to ask in a press conference. It's just dumb. But as for the trade deadline, a deal will be made. I just don't know, man. Like because there's everything's so muddy. I don't know if we're going to have Harden, Beal, somebody else, and Simmons. Will he or will he not be on the team? I don't. If he's still on the team, that's a problem, man. Like you're playing with a man down the entire season. Like he's not going to play for you. You got to get rid of him. I'm more concerned about whether or not Simmons is still on the team at the deadline than whether or not we're getting Harden or Beals.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. I mean, I would like to see Simmons gone, because I feel like even if you have to accept one of those deals from Sacramento, or Indiana's in the midst of blowing it up, whatever you got to do, I just feel like you're wasting that $36 million by having him not play. He needs to be gone. I just need the distraction over with. But, a move will be made. There's no way Daryl Morey will go into the playoffs with this roster constructed as it is. He will make some form of a move. It's just going to be interesting to see. And like I said, it's so crazy that you can get 2 well-respected guys in Woj and Shams with 2 completely different sets of sources and thoughts on what's going on. And, we'll see who's right. And like you said, Woj is the man. I mean, I remember him when he was still with Yahoo, breaking all the draft picks before they were announced on, draft night and stuff like that. So, Woj is the man. But again, we'll see how it plays out. I hope that the Chris LeVert trade, that went down yesterday. Again, like I said, it's going to be sneakily one of the better trades that happened, because he basically was traded for expiring contracts and second-round picks.
Right.
It's sneakily going to make the Cleveland Cavaliers. I've been saying all season long, the Cavs are going to fall back down to earth, and they just don't. They're just like the Sixers. They just keep hanging around there. It's going to sneakily make the Cavaliers a better basketball team, and people are going to forget about it. But all right, so that's basketball. Yeah. We're going to move on to football. It's the start of Super Bowl week. We got a lot of football to talk about. Head coaching hirings, head coaches not getting hired. We got the Super Bowl. I want to start with a little fun topic first, okay? Before we talk Eagles, before we talk the Super Bowl itself, Super Bowl halftime shows.
Yes.
I want to talk about the halftime shows. And I got the list of every halftime show in the history of the Super Bowl up on my screen here, okay? And this year, I'm going to love this year's Super Bowl halftime show because, you got Dr. Dre, you got Snoop Dogg, you got Eminem, you got Mary J. Blige. You got literally every, hip-hop guy from my high school days, in this show. And yes, I am sneakily a hip hop fan, an old school hip hop
I,
fan.
I love hip hop too, and these guys
Especially
are.
the Dre's, the Dogs,
The-
Eminem is actually, in my opinion, probably on the Mount Rushmore of rappers, in my opinion. But we don't know how the show's going to go.
Yeah.
We'll see. What is, and I hope I think me and you have similar. I think me and you have, might be on the same page on the favorite. I'm thinking you're a Jersey guy. You're an Italian like me. I think we're going to be on the same page on
I
favorite.
don't know, Phil. I'm going to throw some wild names at you.
All right, give me your give me your favorite halftime show.
My favorite halftime show of all time was Prince.
Ah, man, that was
Prince.
That's in my top 3, but that was not my number 1.
Prince was absolutely fantastic. I just remember him like they were showing a shot of him playing his guitar.
Yeah.
And honestly, Phil, it looked like he was making love to his guitar on the TV. And I was like, oh, boy, here come the censors again and whatnot. But that was a fantastic show.
It was a fantastic show, yes. That was in 2007.
Was that long ago? Wow.
Yeah, 2007. That was I got to check what Super Bowl that was. That was the Colts beating the Bears in the Super Bowl.
Okay, that was a fantastic show.
That was a
another one I will pull out from when I was a kid, and it was I think it was the Giants Bills. Whitney Houston did the national anthem, which was the best rendition ever, even though it was recorded. Michael Jackson did the halftime show.
Yes,
and Michael Jackson, I remember like he popped up onto the stage and he stood there for like 2 minutes, not doing or saying or singing anything. And people were like, is everything all right? And then he just put on the spectacular Michael Jackson show.
Yeah.
And
that was the Bills losing to Washington. The Washington Commanders now.
That was that. Oh, I thought it was the same.
I was going to say the Washington Redskins or the Washington football team, but now they are
Commanders.
The Commanders now.
They had 2 years to come up with a name, and they came up with Commanders. How about that?
All right, so my favorite Super Bowl show.
Yeah,
and I really thought he would make the list. And I know some people don't like him personally, his music or whatever, because of his political, views and the way he puts too much politics into his music nowadays. But the Bruce Springsteen halftime show, Pittsburgh Cardinals. First, I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I hate the fact that he puts so much politics and that into his music. I just want music to be separate. You know what I mean? But the fact that when he put on that 20-minute halftime show, he was 61 years old, and the fact that a 61-year-old man can put on a show like he did, and the amount of energy that he brings, even now. I mean, he's still doing it now in concerts. He's 70-some years old. The fact that he's able to do that at his age, it just boggles my mind. And that was a great show. Clarence was still around. Unfortunately, he's not, there anymore. That is that. I got a little bit of trivia for you. There's only one person that is headlined. There have been people that have headlined and then also been like the supporting, surprise, person in. Like Bruno Mars has headlined and then popped up in shows before. Only one person has headlined 2 times.
Bruno Mars was really good too. The both times that he was there.
I'm not a Bruno Mars fan of that music, but as an entertainer, Bruno Mars is super entertaining.
Dude, he killed it. He killed it.
It's so entertaining, the music. Yeah.
So there was one.
One person has headlined 2 times. Can you name it? I didn't even know this till looking at it right now.
I have no idea.
You're not going to believe out of all the names. So we're just going to name the Who.
Was it Justin Timberlake?
He has not headlined twice. He's been.
He was with Janet Jackson, and then
he was secondary to Janet Jackson that year.
He did the Eagles Super Bowl.
Yeah, he has not headlined time. I mean, you've had so many names on here. The name that appeared as the headline 2 times, Gloria Estefan.
Wow.
Yes, and I was a huge fan of Gloria Estefan back in the day. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, for this year, when they announced the Super Bowl halftime show, I spit out my drink when I saw that. I couldn't believe that they went down this avenue.
Love it.
And honestly, I gotta say, it's going to probably be one of the greatest shows, at least in the last 20 years. I don't see why not.
If
they do it right, I mean, if they can't be any the hell out of it,
it's also going to look so much better because last year's The Weeknd was just so boring and blah. It was just there basically to make a meme of him walking through all those mirrors and stuff like that. You know, that's all you got out of last year's Super Bowl show.
He's a little on the weird side. It wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't the best.
I did not
But
enjoy it.
I honestly, as much as I'm looking forward to the football game, I can't wait for this halftime show. I could be honest with you.
The
I
problem
can't
is,
wait.
like, so the thing is, normally the halftime show is my time to drive home from the so the pizza shop. We're busy leading up to the Super Bowl. We get caught up during the first quarter. You know, we close right around the third quarter, but you know, I normally just leave around halftime, drive home, watch the second half of the game. But I don't want to drive home during the halftime show.
You're gonna watch it.
I want to watch it, and then I'll listen to the third quarter start on the drive home because I'm not missing, you know, those guys out there and what they're going to do.
I'm going to throw another show out for you. It was recent, was 2 years ago. That was really good. Shakira and Jennifer Lopez. You hated it? Oh my God, it was so awesome.
I cannot stand Jennifer Lopez.
Oh my God, I love Shakira. She's awesome. I love her.
I know about you every day.
Oh,
Bad
man,
Bunny.
how do you
Who
not
the
like
hell is
Shakira?
Bad Bunny? I can't stand Bad Bunny. That guy, he's so overhyped.
Dude, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I did. Lady Gaga did one a few years ago too.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Mezza.
Justin Timberlake.
The
Coldplay one was terrible. He's just not a halftime performer.
Yeah.
Katy Perry, but yeah, I agree with you. The Bruno Mars one was really good.
Yes.
You know, Madonna did one a few years back. The Black Eyed Peas, they stink. I can't stand them. The Who, the Prince one, the Tom Petty one was okay. The Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney. Some interesting ones there for sure.
Well, I mean, the NFL does have a hard job in doing that because they got to get an act that is more or less like universally known. So you try. They don't get what?
They don't get paid for doing the halftime show.
Which is, I don't get that.
The NFL says it's worth it for you to do it for the publicity you get and all the commercials you get. Every commercial you see for the halftime show and stuff like that. They do not get paid for it, which is it's insane to think. But I guess you got 50 million people, 70 million people tuning in, whatever it is. I guess it's worth it,
Listen, I already know that Dr. Dre is the guy when it comes to rap music and hip hop. Like, I don't need the Super Bowl halftime show to tell me that, to build.
I know Eminem is
exposure.
One of the goats.
Yeah, I mean,
to tell me that.
Like, if I was them, I'd be asking.
I've never honestly been to a like any of these hip hop or rap guys. I've never been to a concert. I've never seen any of them live in person. But if I had to pick one, it would be Eminem to go see in person.
I'm sure he puts on a great show.
Yeah, I would absolutely. It would be a dream show for me right there. It would rank. I have like 3 or 4 dream concerts that I've never seen that I want to see. And I would actually put that on my dream list of concerts.
I want to go see a Wu-Tang Clan show. Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
I heard they put a great show in small venues.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, Eminem would be number 1 in that. So anyway, let's get back to actually talking football.
Yes. Let's do that.
So there's only 2 head coaching positions left available. The Houston Texans and New Orleans Saints. The Houston Texans did advise Jonathon Gannon that he did not make the final cut to be the head coach, which means Jonathon Gannon, because he is not in the running from anything I've heard anywhere, he hasn't even been interviewed by the Saints, to my knowledge. I haven't seen that come up anywhere, which means Jonathon Gannon is back as the Eagles defensive coordinator next year. And hashtag Overreaction Monday statement, that's a good thing for the Eagles. Because I am overreacting to Jonathon Gannon being a bad defensive coordinator, and I'm more on the side of the fact that Jonathon Gannon just did not have the pieces to have a proper defense last year. And if we use our free agent money the proper ways, not saying they will, but if we use our stuff the proper ways, the Eagles defense can be much better next year. And Jonathon Gannon is going to be the leader of that. Yeah. Where's the overreaction to that? Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Phil, you're probably on point on that. I don't like his style of defense, and I think a lot of defensive coordinators are going that route.
What is his style of defense? Do we know what his style of defense is, or did he run that style last year because of the lack of talent?
Well, I mean, he said he doesn't have a scheme, right?
Yeah,
and it's based on whatever players he has. Listen, I don't care if he doesn't have a scheme; it's based on his players he has. But shit, dude, you got to get to the quarterback and you got to get some turnovers. And I didn't.
We didn't have anybody. We had 2 guys with 7.5 sacks: Josh Sweat and Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave should not be the type of player that leads your team in sacks.
Yeah,
he's a nose tackle playing defensive tackle. He's not a guy that leads your team in sacks. and he was fifth in the team in tackles. That's another guy that shouldn't be doing that. So, that's the problem right there.
I'm flabbergasted that he was considered for a head coaching. He had multiple head coaching interviews. That being said, like, all right, now he's back. Like you said, give him some tools to work with. I'm curious to see, does he take a massive step forward next year, or is it the same old, same old? So this is going to be a big spotlight, and I think
to Inside the Birds with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher last week. They did an interview with Spielman, the former GM of the Vikings.
Rick Spielman. Okay.
And, he had a. Did you listen to that interview?
No, I saw maybe somebody.
In the middle of the interview, they start talking about Jonathon Gannon, and they bring up the fact that why so many teams were considering him as a head coach. It's because so many teams around the league realized the lack of talent the Eagles had on defense and realized that he's actually a pretty smart football mind. It's just the Eagles didn't give him the tools to do his job. I mean, I'm looking at the Eagles defense here. Alex Singleton and TJ Edwards led the team in tackles. Okay. They're both okay linebackers. TJ Edwards might be a little bit better than Alex Singleton, but both of them as starters on a defense, that just tells you how bad the Eagles defense was when both of those are starters on your defense.
Yeah, Alex Singleton would be a backup linebacker and special teams player on another team. So
absolutely.
Who's that? George just posted something about the Texans. Like the one thing I'll say about Gannon, he kind of dodged a bullet not going to that organization because it is in free fall, and I'd hate to see a young coach like that go to an organization that is inept, and that could be a career killer. Now it sounds to me like Brian Flores was in the running for it, which is weird.
Yeah, and right now, it basically seems like it's down to
Lovie Smith,
Josh McCown, Eagles former backup, or Lovie. They just announced yesterday that they're bringing in Lovie Smith. Not bringing him in because I think he already works there.
He was already on that staff.
Yeah, that he might be the guy. I think that would be what Lovie Smith, if he got the job, his third.
Yeah, he was. Where was that? Bears, Rams.
He was definitely with the Bears. Was he with the Rams? I know he had.
Or was it Buccaneers? I don't know if he was a coordinator or not. He's been a coordinator for a while.
Head coach. I know he's been a head coach 2 different spots.
Yeah,
I think it was the Buccaneers and the Bears. But yeah, I mean, Lovie
Smith.
If
they want to hire him,
he would be a smart transitional coach for them because he's the guy that he's a veteran. He's been around. He could get them through the Deshaun Watson controversies. He can keep them afloat as a respectable organization while they try to figure out in the next year or two what plan and which direction they're going to take that organization.
I think they love Josh McCown, but I think they're a little apprehensive because he's had no head coaching experience or no real coaching.
He's never been on a sideline other than as a player. So that'd be a spot where you hire Lovie Smith
and have him
in offensive
coordinator. Yes,
and groom him to be the head coach when Lovie Smith obviously it's time to move on from.
But who's going to do that? Like would he sell himself to do that? Lovey might, but Brian Flores would not do that.
Yeah. And this is obviously, an obvious comment right there too, with everything going on,
the ownership groups would hate any team that would hire Brian right now. And that is unfair. I listen, Phil, I missed your shows. I wasn't on your shows when you talked about it last week, but I thought you did a hell of a job, you and Jason, trying to cover a real sensitive topic on that.
I mean, if you want to say anything about those topics, I said it last week, it's going to be a topic we discuss nonstop going forward for the next couple of weeks. If you have anything to say about it, you're more than welcome to. I appreciate your comments.
I would say blow it all up. Blow it up. Because the Rooney Rule doesn't work. It's a good old boys network. Listen, I'm a white American. I have no real experience of being discriminated against, especially in the workplace. Some of our African American brethren do, and like some of them have the receipts to prove it. And as much as I enjoy NFL football, they are a monopoly. They get these tax breaks as being a nonprofit. Like they are billionaires owning teams. Bring it all down. Bring it, and whatever it takes to bring it all. There are owners in this league that have no business owning a team. Guys like Dan Snyder, guys like Bob McNair, like they have no business owning a football team. And start bringing in some folks that have a little bit of diversity, or not requiring a one sole person. Like the NFL has these weird rules. It has to be one individual owning the team, not like corporations. And I'm not saying corporations need to take over, but that's the only way you're going to get like diversity in here.
It's
from the very top.
You look at basketball as an example. The Clippers. They force like leagues, when things happen. Other leagues force teams to sell or owners to sell their teams because of things. But yet in the football, Dan Snyder, it doesn't matter how many things Dan Snyder does wrong. It's just all like whatever, if Dan Snyder was owning an NBA team, Dan Snyder would not be the owner anymore based off of all that he does. But in football, it's a totally different, it's a toxic subject. It is. It's insane, the way football and ownership in football is.
And listen, say what you want about Jeffrey Lurie. We have one of the best owners in sports, not just football, in sports. And from what he took this organization from when he bought it from Norman Brayman to where it is now, to the social presence that he has, the charitable work that he does, the type of individuals he brings into this organization, like you have Jeffrey Lurie is part of he's part of the solution, I should say, not part of the problem. We should be very thankful that we do have an owner like him. Would I like to see more championships? Absolutely. I think everybody will. But I also don't want to be embarrassed. And because your ownership group is tied to your city and the reflection of the city and the reputation of the city. If we had a guy like Norman Brayman as an owner today, we would be a laughing stock, and it wouldn't be good optics. And he would probably be one of those guys that there would be some sort of problem that will pop up, because there were problems with that team in the 80s that just you didn't have social media and the way things are today that would have blown a lot of the things that were just going on up. So
to think Norman Brayman cared more about his car dealerships than the Eagles as an owner.
He sure did.
I remember driving. I forget where we were in Florida. My dad, we used to drive to Disney World and all over Florida, from up here as kids. He would take us to Florida every year. And I remember I was like 11 years old, and he pointed. He's like, look, son, that's one of Norman Brayman's car dealerships. And he flipped off the car dealership. He's like, because that's what he gave it the bird as we're driving down the road. He's like, that's why our team stinks. And I'm like, I still have that memory burned in my head of my dad was a super passionate, Eagles fan, obviously. Yeah. And I just still burned. I'm like, that taught me that Norman Brayman obviously cared literally nothing about the Eagles.
Norman Brayman took as much money as he could out of that Eagles organization, probably helped to float his dealerships, or put money in his pocket for his yacht. And as Buddy called him, the guy in France, he was an absentee owner. And I don't think an owner should be involved in the day-to-day, but they shouldn't be absentee either. Something like somewhere in the middle there.
All right, so George is bringing up an interesting question. Everything going on with the Dolphins and the purposely trying to get them to lose games. Same thing with you, Jackson. He and yes, I understand that, George. Yeah, you I agree with you on that. But you're saying, so were you cool with Jeffrey Lurie, quote unquote, tanking the last game of the year 2 years ago? It's not okay for the Dolphins. It's not okay for, whatever. I think. Go ahead. You go first, and then I'll go after what you have to say.
George, I don't think he tanked the year. Did he tank that last game? Yeah, because everything was all lost at that point, so it really didn't matter. But there was an internal struggle between Doug and Howie, and probably to a lesser extent Jeff, on what direction this team should go and who should the quarterback be. And I believe Howie and Jeff did not feel that Doug was ready to take the step to be like an Andy Reid type coach where you essentially ran the whole organization. And that caused a lot of the failures that you saw on the field, versus, an outright tanking. The Eagles did not outright tank. They were a bad football team, and they weren't coached very good. They decided not to win that last game. That's their prerogative. But really, when you have a bad team like that,
tanking.
doesn't
The
matter.
term tanking, I think, needs to be more.
Tanking is what the
over a big-
76ers did for 5 years.
Tanking is
That's
like a whole
tanking.
season. Purposely losing the last game. Is totally different because like you said, they were just I understand there really isn't much of a difference there, but I was against it. And George, you know me from my previous network. I was against losing that last game. I understood it. I understood why, they did it, and I got it because that draft pick was important. But I was against it because I said it then, and I'll say it again, just like this year. If we missed the playoffs this year, we would have gotten a better draft position. But playoff experience for coaches, for young players, for Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, whoever you want to say, that playoff experience, whether it's a win, a loss, a blowout loss, whatever it is huge going forward in the development of players and coaches. So I always want that playoffs. Plus, playoffs equals more money for me for my pizza shop. So I have that ulterior motive there as well. But I got it and I understood it. I just think it was different. Yeah, no one was against. I get that. I'm just saying that I just think there's a different level. Maybe it's not a difference in tanking, and maybe there's just a different level of tanking when you're just purposely losing one game. And I actually think people would have cared less about it and made less of a stink about it if they would have just started what's his name as quarterback the whole game versus Jalen Hurts. Or starting. Yeah, Sudfeld, the best thrower.
The immortal Nate Sudfeld.
Didn't Jaws say the man had the best deep arm he had ever seen? I will never let Jaws forget that.
Was he even on a roster this year? I know he's with the Niners.
He was on somebody's roster on their practice squad, and he was like the third string quarterback on someo's team this year. I forget.
Hey, listen, he is the perfect third stringer, and he has a Super Bowl ring. So
absolutely.
But listen, I'm going to get back to it because it's really kind of bothering me what George said about tanking. There's been no history of the Philadelphia Eagles during the Lurie era where they've quote unquote tanked. Right. Did they decide to kind of bag the last game? Yes, but what was part of to get a good draft pick, but also to put their top rival, New York Giants, after they said that, hey, listen, we need the Eagles to win, to put them out of the playoffs. I think that was more strategic than anything at all. I don't think it's tanking for the sake of all year to get the number one draft pick. I think those are two really separate issues. I don't have a huge problem with what they did. I talking about tanking, what the 76ers did for as many years as they have, like when we're only really starting to see the fruits of their labor after. I mean, how many years did Sam Hinkie do that crap? And they were compiling draft picks and trading and getting the number one draft pick and number two draft pick. And it was like, when does it all end? Like, when do we see the team that actually start winning games? Because that is your ultimate goal. And Hinkie kind of brought that in vogue, really. And now you got teams all over doing it, and it's not healthy for sport. It really isn't. But I don't think the Eagles participated to the levels that some of these other teams have. Not nearly as close. One game versus.
I get George. George is Mr. Devil Advocate. He always is. He's always trying to bring that up, the other side of the argument in. And it's an extreme comment, but doing it a little bit versus a lot is I only murdered one person, not 7 people like Mark did. So so
but they're not.
My crime's okay.
It's not committing
extreme,
a crime here. I mean, ethics wise and optics, it probably doesn't look good, but is it a crime? I don't think it is.
Yeah, no, I got you. All right, let's move on. We spent too much time talking about tanking there.
All right, go ahead. Yes,
and over another overreaction statement Monday. I love football just as much as the next, but I did not watch 1 second of the Pro Bowl. Didn't even know the score till before the show when I brought the box score up here. But Mark actually said he watched some of this Pro Bowl yesterday, and I'm not sure why. So hashtag Overreaction Monday. Mark has no life if he watched a little bit of that Pro Bowl.
Thanks,
yesterday.
Phil.
Yeah.
I have an listen.
That's an extreme, overreaction.
That's an overreaction, Phil. I put it on because it was on, and I was watching it, and I saw Kyler Murray throw an interception to who was it? Darius Leonard.
Well,
And he just kind of ran down the field. Nobody made an attempt to tackle. Some of the guys were trying to do two-hand touch. They were doing like stop motion guys, they were playing backyard football like I did as a kid, two-hand touch and stop motion. And nobody got tackled in the short time that I watched the game. I said, this is ridiculous. And I tweeted out a couple times and also posted on Facebook. That's more dangerous than actually playing football, because now you're playing the game half-assed, and it's like a glorified walk-through practice. Now you have a better chance of actually having somebody get hurt than actually playing football the way it's intended. Because when you start playing half-assed like that, you're not paying attention, you're slowing up, and you can really, really end somebody's career in an exhibition game.
I'm actually surprised there haven't been more injuries the last few years in the Pro Bowl or anything like that.
So
I watched more of the skills competition, and those things. I talked about it on Friday with Jason. I used to love, they don't do it the way they used to do it, but the quarterback challenge, they used to do the quarterback challenge. It was just quarterbacks. Now they have, quarterbacks and wide receivers throwing balls and stuff like that, dodgeball. They have a whole entire, competition around it. That's more entertaining than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, what I saw and what little I saw was an absolute disgrace, and they should be embarrassed that they put that out. And they really need to rethink that. Do they need an all-star game at this point? Maybe you make an all-star fun weekend, like you said, Phil, and you do with like all these different events and things like that, meet and greets, the skills competition, stuff like that, and just forego a game. I don't think they need a game at this point, and maybe kind of lump it into Super Bowl week somehow.
I will say, that's great, lumping it into Super Bowl week too. There, I did read an article I brought up with Jason. We all laugh at it. We all say it's stupid and pointless, but it is still meaningful to players to get voted onto the Pro Bowl team. And there was an article on ESPN last week talking about, Justin Herbert and a couple of the guys that made their first Pro Bowl and how much it meant to them. So it's not just the money, because, obviously there's bonuses and contracts for making the Pro Bowl, and stuff like that. But it's just the fact that you get voted. Some of these players still, they do need it. They it's good for their confidence and stuff like that. So maybe you still vote for it, but you just vote for, Pro Bowl weekend or All-Star weekend, or you just vote for your All-Stars or whatever. And something that there's got to be a change to it. But I got a hashtag overreaction from the Pro Bowl weekend. Okay. Absolutely. I've been saying it nonstop. I would trade for Russell Wilson, kind of as an overreaction. But if you watch Russell Wilson in the skills competition, boy, did that just off the skills competition alone, that boy could still sling the football. Hashtag Overreaction Monday. I am overreacting to Russell Wilson in the skills competition. Trade all 3 first-round picks for him right now. I'm being a little extreme with that and all. But yes, if you go back and watch the skills competition, that boy was firing that ball in the wind. No problem.
I would listen, if you had a chance to get him, I would get him, but I wouldn't give up my draft capital. All three of them.
Make a big Russell
Wilson. Didn't Andy Reid scout the hell out of him, and they wanted to draft him and didn't? Who did they draft instead of Russell?
They took Nick Foles instead of him. And there's a report, there was a story out there that Russell Wilson told Andy Reid and Jeffrey Lurie, draft me and we will win multiple Super Bowls together. So it was really close to happening. And that's kind of why Howie sometimes reaches for quarterbacks, because he missed out on the one that he really wanted, and look where it got him. So
if that would have happened, Andy Reid's probably still here.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
He's probably still here.
Absolutely. So, George,
okay.
I'm just kidding a little bit.
George is on fire today. Yeah, also, George, thanks for the follow, George.
Yeah. George, I love Russell Wilson. I'm going to be obnoxious, but there is a lot of sarcasm in my Russell Wilson talk. You got to understand that, especially on Overreaction Monday. Absolutely some sarcasm. But anyway, the AFC, the AFC won 41-35. Yeah, I'm looking at the box scores here. A lot of passing, a lot of interceptions. They actually have sacks. Did they actually allow people to sack the quarterback?
I didn't see one guy get hit.
I thought it was like
practice. I didn't see one guy get hit. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, there's 4 sacks from the NFC and 3 sacks from the AFC. I don't know what the hell that was. Not sure where that came from. Yeah, but I didn't watch, so I have no clue. Yeah, you're always on fire, George. I know, man. All right, so we're going to talk. This is the one day a week that Mark's on the show. We're going to talk Super Bowl all week long and the games and the game itself. But this is your chance to talk Super Bowl and how you think the game's going to go. I'm not going to get really into my predictions yet because it's too early for me. Today is Matthew Stafford's birthday. He's 34 years old. What a way to start Super Bowl week, with your birthday. Then maybe win your first Super Bowl at the end of the week. I love Super Bowl week. I love all the media attention. I love all the media with the players and the coaches, however they do it and all. I loved how back in the day before COVID, it was all in one big stadium and the reporters would go station to station. I don't know if they're bringing that back this year or not. Hopefully someday they bring that back. But Super Bowl, thoughts on this week's Super Bowl, Rams and Bengals, and how you think it's going to play out?
I think it's going to be a competitive game. I think it's going to be a fun game. Listen, look at the divisional and championship games that were all ultra competitive, and these two teams both came out of that. So why can't there be a competitive Super Bowl? So I do think the Bengals are going to end up winning this game. I just don't know how. It's still early in the week for like all my predictions that I want to throw out there. I usually throw out a bunch.
What do you call yourself on Facebook? Like Vegas Mark or something?
Vegas
like
Mark, yes, I do.
Yeah. You got to make that a hashtag on your Twitter page.
Yeah,
hashtag
I'll go ahead
Vegas
and do that.
Mark. Yeah, and start your predictions on Twitter. That'll be your goal by next season to make hashtag Vegas Mark a thing.
It's funny. As much as I do this, I only do it during playoffs. I don't gamble at all. I don't do FanDuel. I don't do any of that. I don't go to. I don't, but I watch enough football to kind of know what's going on. I'm usually ahead of the game come the end of playoffs than I am this year. I think I'm 6-4.
Okay.
Something like I don't know off the top of my head, but I do think the Bengals are going to win, and I think it's going to be a damn fun Super Bowl. And hopefully,
I'm just hoping it's not as bad as the last time the Rams were in the Super Bowl against the
Patriots.
Patriots.
That was terrible.
That was a god-awful game. 13-3. Seriously.
And again, that made me angry because I felt if the Eagles got to the championship game, they would have beat the Rams again. They would have went to the Super Bowl. And if that's the performance that the Patriots are going to put out, the Eagles would have gone back-to-back. That would have created a whole other problem because now you got Foles winning 2 straight Super Bowls. But
oh my God. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Freddie Defoe here. Pretty evenly matched. Take the Rams, take it. The Stafford, yeah. Time in purgatory. I love that line. Stafford spent so much time in purgatory. I'm going to text my other boy, Jason Sullivan, my golf co-host, that one. That I'm going to call it purgatory, being a Detroit Lions fan as well. I still haven't decided. I mean, I think like you and George and Freddie, that it is going to be a pretty, evenly matched, entertaining game. But I still, like George is saying, get mixing going. There's so many, CJ Uzma, whatever their tight end. If he's healthy enough to play, that's a factor I still have to take into account for the game. I just don't know if the Bengals defense. I mean, Eli Apple against Odell Beckham, the second best cornerback on their team against Odell Beckham. Cooper Kupp. I just don't know if the Bengals defense is good enough. I mean, they've played well in the playoffs. They've had some big moments, but let's be honest. Remember, the Bengals defense was ranked worse than the Eagles defense this year as a whole for the season. So I'm still not sure the Bengals defense. It's going to come down to what defense makes that one extra stop. And if I had to bet on it, obviously the Rams defense has a better chance of making that one more stop over the Bengals defense. Von Miller, the Aaron Donald, Ramsey, they have a better chance of making that one stop than the Bengals do. That's just early in the week. That's where I'm leaning, but I'm still not so totally sure on it yet.
My heart kind of is with Cincinnati, and I mentioned this on the previous show. Like it's a blue collar city. It hasn't had a lot of success in all sports for a while now. And if you saw some of the reaction videos, and then think about in 18 when the Eagles went, and some of the reaction videos we had, like there's a special place in my heart for the Cincinnati Bengals and the city of Cincinnati and their surrounding area for them to win it. At the same time, Phil, for Matthew Stafford, that would be icing on the cake for him for a Hall of Fame career if he's able to do that. I think he's probably Hall of Fame anyway, especially for the playoffs that he's played this year. I mean, he bailed the Rams out of a couple games in the playoffs. I mean, that kind of goes to show you what happens if you put a real team around him. But, I mean, if he wins, that'll put the icing on the cake for him. The only thing that I don't like is the city of Los Angeles. I don't believe they deserve a football team, let alone an NFL Super Bowl champion. That city is not a sports town. It's not a real sports town beyond the Lakers, and I don't think they deserve it. George, I think it might be.
We'll discuss this at some point. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he is or isn't. I mean, he probably gets in based off of his stats, and that we know that the Hall of Fame, puts quarterbacks in that are borderline over elite wide receivers or something else. So we'll see. He probably gets in whether he deserves it or not. That's debatable. A lot of people are saying they want to see the Rams win because of Stafford. The later part of his career versus Burrow being early in his career, and he'll have more opportunities. But I don't think that's a smart narrative or thing to think, because just because Joe Burrow's in his second year, there's no guarantee Joe Burrow plays in 6 or 7 Super Bowls. Because you got to remember that AFC, you've got Herbert, you got Burrow, you got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen. You've got so many great quarterbacks in the AFC that I joked around saying that, Patrick Mahomes is going to play in 10 Super Bowls in his career. If that's the case, there's only so many Super Bowls for those 4 guys. So this might be Joe Burrow's last for a while. Who knows? We know the Bengals organization does not continually put great product out there. Who's to say that this Bengals organization doesn't fall apart in a year or two, even with Joe Burrow there. So, I mean, let's put it this way. The last time the Bengals were in the Super Bowl was the first time I was allowed to stay up till the end of the Super Bowl. Okay? I was 8 years old.
A few years ago.
Right? I was 8 years old that year. I was the first one against San Francisco. What Super Bowl was that? I got the Super Bowl list up here somewhere. 1989 was the year. So it's 1988 season, San Francisco, Super Bowl 23.
23.
Over at Joe Robbie Stadium. Joe Robbie Stadium doesn't exist anymore, I'm pretty sure, right?
No, it's the Miami Stadium that's just going through 87 different name changes.
Yeah. But anyway, I just don't know if, you could say that Joe Burrow have a lot more chances necessarily.
Nobody knows what the future holds. Remember, Dan Marino, I saw him in an interview. His second year, he went to the Super Bowl, and he thought he was going to be going there every year. He never made it back. So once you get there, you got to make the best of it.
You got to take advantage of your opportunities. KC saying, is Stafford better than Donovan? It's borderline, honestly. If Stafford doesn't win a Super Bowl, it's really close.
I think Stafford as a pure quarterback is better than Donovan, but Donovan did things with his legs that
Donovan led his team.
Stafford. Donovan couldn't hit the broadside of the barn though with a football in an area in a stretch of the NFL football where there was high completion percentages, and I think his career completion percentage is under 60%. So there was
text the last time the Bengals were in the Super Bowl. Exactly.
It's the
AOL
truth,
was not a thing yet. The last time, the things we could say the last time the Bengals made the Super Bowl. I know George, you're older than me. Mark's older than me. But I was 8 years old the last time the Bengals were in the Super Bowl. Should the day after the Super Bowl be a national holiday?
Yes,
absolutely.
I think so. Did you?
How
many?
Talk about Saturday.
Talk about hangovers, Phil. How many Mondays did you go into work after a Super Bowl?
I've never called out of work ever in my life because I was hungover. Never once. I've only called out of work. I've been working since I was 14. I'm 41 years old. I've called out of work twice in my life. Once the day my dad passed away, and once the day my grandma passed away, and that was it.
And there were very valid reasons to do that. I
still showed up the next day after each of those things too. I mean, I've never requested off for work. I've never called out sick. Nothing. I cut my thumb off in a kitchen once. Literally cut a piece of my thumb off. I went to the emergency room, got it stitched back on, went back to work. Okay. I've always been a dedicated worker. It's the one thing my dad taught me. So
I'm with you too.
I actually think the Super Bowl should be on Saturdays. Personally, I know they'll never do it.
They'll never they'll never do it because of so many different parties and whatnot.
Absolutely.
It'll cut down on the viewership and therefore the ad revenue that they get. So
Absolutely agree, but they should.
But they should is right. What I think what they're trying to do though, Phil, is trying to continue to push that Super Bowl out so it hits that President's Day weekend where most people have that. Well, some people have that day off. I don't. I know you don't. But there are some people out there that have that day off, or it's easy.
This year is actually the worst possible day for the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is February 13th. What's February 14th?
It's Valentine's Day.
It's the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day are two of my 3 busiest days of the year, and they're both back-to-back days. And
nice.
I am not prepared physically as a 41-year-old man to handle the Super Bowl and Valentine's Day back-to-back. I'm just not.
Phil, what do you make? Those heart-shaped pizzas?
I do. I was the first one in Kennett to do them. You know how much of a pain in the ass making heart-shaped pizzas are?
It's
a pain in the ass. And I will sell on a given Valentine's Day anywhere from 50 to 100 of them, and just having to shape them and cut them out and whatnot. It's a hassle, man. It's a real hassle.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so this was trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. My hangover's already over because just doing this show just pepped me up, woke me up. It was a fantastic show, Mark. Thank you for joining me again this morning.
Anytime.
Hashtag Overreaction Monday on Twitter. Follow me at Bearded Knowledge. I'll put all my overreactions on Twitter throughout the day. Again, brought to you by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Check them out, manscaped.com, and use promo code DSM at checkout to get your 20% off free shipping and let them know that we sent you. We'll be back tomorrow with Jason Voorhees. We'll have continuing talk on the Super Bowl, continuing talk on the NBA trade deadline as it fast approaches. Maybe we'll get some more baseball news, maybe not about this arbitrator. Who knows? But we got lots to talk about all week long right here on Trending in the AM. Again, Mark, thank you very much. Make sure you follow Mark at Mark with a C, Moscatelli on Twitter. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Turn the notifications on. You don't want to forget to tune in every single Monday through Friday morning, 8:30 a.m. Everybody have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Oh, and go Birds, by the way.
Go Birds. You almost forgot.
Go Birds. I'll never forget.